What's up, you guys? So in today's video, we're going to talk about the inequality that the Federal Reserve causes. And before we start this video, if you wouldn't mind hitting that like button that tells the YouTube algorithm, hey, promote this video. I do not get paid any money for any of my YouTube videos. So it goes a long ways. Just hit that like button. Thank you so much. And of course, subscribe. Okay, you guys, so let's dive into why the Federal Reserve creates inequality. And to figure this out, I first need to go over assets. So assets are typically things like stocks, real estate, precious metals. Those are things that are considered assets. And then liabilities are things considered like a TV or typically a car or things that go down in value. That's typically a liability, right? So if you buy a brand new TV, 5 years from now, that TV will probably be worth 10% of what you paid for it. Where an asset like real estate, say you buy a house for $100,000 10 years ago, that asset might be worth $500,000 today. It goes up in value. So now that we know the difference between assets and liabilities, let's talk about why does the Fed cause inequality in our country? So now remember, the Federal Reserve is in charge of the money printers. They determine the financial policies that our economy uses. For example, the federal fund interest rate. See, in our country, we are always borrowing money, and the Federal Reserve is kind of at the center of lending out money to banks, which in turn, we borrow money from the banks. And we borrow money from the banks to start businesses, to buy houses, to buy cars, to other things. So it's essential that we're able to access this money. But if the Federal Reserve is too loose with federal policy, well, what happens is we get crazy high inflation. And that's what we have today. We have over 7% inflation. Now, to be honest, that number is probably double that because I think they manipulate those numbers to show it's not as bad so we don't panic. So you're probably asking yourself, well, Sam, how does that cause inequality? Because I can now borrow way more money. Did you know that the rich people in this country, the top 1% of this country, own 35% of all assets? So if you are not buying assets and owning assets, you are getting poorer due to inflation. And so when the Federal Reserve has interest rates super low, like today, they're at 0%, and when they're pumping money into the economy via bonds and stimulus checks, really that's benefiting the rich or anyone that buys assets, which is usually mostly just rich people. Think about it this way. Who's raising the price of rent on you? Is it the poor people or the rich people? The rich people, of course, they're the ones that are raising prices on rent for the poor people. And so yes, when the Federal Reserve keeps rates super low and pump tons of money into our economy, they make the stock market go up, they make real estate go up, and they make all these asset prices go shooting up. And who owns those? The rich. And then all the poor people who maybe are saving their money or who own liabilities, they're just getting poorer. So don't let the politicians or anyone else fool you. The Federal Reserve is creating inequality. What they are doing is they are systematically manipulating our market. And so the purpose of this video, I know this is short and I want to keep it short. The purpose is to follow what the rich people are doing and buy assets, own assets. Because in my opinion, the Federal Reserve is going to stay this way for a really long time. You see, the Fed has backed themselves into a corner and it's going to be really hard over the next 5, 10, 15 years to raise interest rates substantially. So in my opinion, we're going to have higher inflation over the coming years. We're going to have a Federal Reserve who is way more relaxed with financial policy, loose with financial policy. And I think that the poor, unfortunately, is going to continue to get poorer. The rich is going to continue to get richer because they own these assets. They buy assets all the time. They're always buying assets. I know it's hard, but as us regular folk, we need to join together to buy as many assets as possible. And we can start small. We don't have to start huge like the rich, but we can copy the rich on a much smaller scale. Like, for example, to get into real estate, we can start out with a single family house or a duplex. Whereas the rich, they're buying the 100-unit apartment complex, and that's okay. But we start small, but slowly build up. Or, for example, in the stock market, we buy small and slowly work our way up. But for us not to get left behind in this country, we have to be buying assets. And that's my message for today. I know this video is short, but it's very important. And sometimes intentionally, I like to keep my videos short and simple. That way you get the exact message and you're able to apply it in your life. Thanks so much, you guys, for watching this video. And please remember to subscribe. That way you are notified whenever another video drops. And as always, let's keep learning everything money. See you in the next one.